I want to use this video to go over how to progress this project in terms of the design of your monogram clay tile. At this point, you probably have already done some thumbnail drawings and you want to brainstorm through that, but as you can see in my brainstorming on this paper, everything is really sloppy, and that's perfectly okay when I'm getting ideas down. But when you get to the point where you have an idea that you like, you need to think of it in terms of it being a square clay tile design. The project's going to be 6 by 6 inches square. So what you're going to do is get another piece of paper like this. I'm going to go horizontal just so we can see better, but this is just scrap paper that we would normally use. We have to start thinking about it as a clay tile. First of all, a square is the same on all 4 sides, like that. Should not be a rectangle, so just do your best. So we're still thinking in terms of thumbnail drawings. Now we can also rotate the square so that it is a diamond, but you are required to use a square in your project. So just as an example, let's pretend that the design that I came up with for my monogram, which is MHA, let's say that I had a big bubbly H there, and I had an M here, and an A here. I've got to figure out how's that going to work as a square tile. So if I gave us 2 examples like this, and I put the circle here, and I did it exactly the same, let's pretend that I did that. Or what if the circle filled up the entire square like that? Same exact design, let's assume. Which one of these would be the more effective tile design? And hopefully you are thinking the one on the right is the more effective tile design because it's using the space more effectively in the square. Furthermore, I could have also chosen to make my tile angled like that. Could still put that circle in there and still do that same design. And this too, this as well would be a quality design to start with. But there is some empty space out here, and I can leave it empty if it makes sense. But let me just zoom in on these a little bit. You can add some graphic elements, like if I want to play off of the circle here, maybe I do some repetitive circles out there, maybe I give it a little friend as well. And that changes the dynamic of the tile. Or maybe I give it some sort of corner framing devices. And that's an interesting usage as well. All of these are quality designs, but as you can see, even though I'm starting with that same monogram design, the tile design still gets progressed into something unique and interesting that you have to make artistic choices about. Over here, we don't want to use this and just like fill it up with space. You could say, Mr. Hey, I'm filling up the space, but we want the actual design of the letters, the monogram, to be as dominant as possible within the framework of your creativity. So if you have a unique reason why it should be a little smaller, that's fine. But if you don't, try to use the space as effectively as possible. Another example would be, what if I had a design, okay, we can see. What if I had a design like this that was all about block letter dashes? So maybe this is an A and I have another dash out here, and then I build this way. Make my M. What if conceptually this was the monogram I wanted to work within, but if I have a square and I were to put that exactly in the square proportionally, I would have to make it extremely small with respect to the square in order to fit it in. And that would be a problem for my square. This is not an effective design. So what I need to do is I need to alter the design just a little bit to create the look of it but be flexible enough. So a good solution here is we want that last initial to be more set apart than the others anyway. So what I could do is make the H tall and thin to fill up that height of the square. And then I could stay small with these elements out here. And then I could also add some other graphic elements like we talked about before. And this would be an effective solution for getting a design like this onto a square tile. Another effective solution, again, if you were to go a quarter turn with your square, remember this is still a square, it's just a quarter turn. The benefit of going that diamond direction is it does give you more room left to right to work with. So I could take the same approach and put a symmetrical and centered letter in the middle. And then as I go out this way, I feel like I have more room to fit it in there. And then, you know, I could still do things out here. So this here and this here would be an effective design, tile design, to meet the needs of a monogram that doesn't quite fit. So now I want to switch gears a little bit and explain to you, what do you do when you have a plan figured out? What I want you to do is do a 3 by 3 inch perfect final draft. And I'm going to use one of these designs as an example. What I mean by perfect is if lines are intended to be straight, use a ruler. If you have perfect circles, use a circle tracer. If things are meant to be centered, make sure that they are centered, and I'll show you how to do that. First of all, a 3 by 3 inch perfect final draft needs a perfect 3 by 3 inch square. So an easy way to do that is take a fresh piece of paper and get a ruler and just measure from the corner inward 3 inches. So I'm putting it on the 10 here. So 3 inches in would be the 7. And then I'm going to measure 3 inches up. So looks like I'm going to put the 5 on there, measure up to the 2. So I've just marked it 3 inches up and 3 inches over. Now what you have to do is just eyeball this, do your best, try to make sure your ruler is parallel, but I'm going to measure in 3 inches and plant a dot out there. Now all I have to do is connect these dots with a straight edge. Just do your best. And that guarantees me a good quality square, and I'm using 2 sides of the paper for 2 sides of my square, and it's a lot easier that way. Now if I want a circle that fills up the entire square, I'm going to grab one of these circle tracers here, and one of these circles is the proper size for a 3 by 3, and it's actually labeled with a 3. So what I'll do is just line up my circle tracer where I think it should go and trace that. Okay. Another good thing to do is before I start drawing out the design the rest of the way is to figure out where the middle of everything is. So if you simply take the corner and aim it to the opposite corner and you make a super light line, that tells you the middle that way. And if you go corner to corner the other way, you make a super light line, now I know exactly where the middle of this is. And I didn't have to do any measuring or any math. And I also know where the center is if I'm viewing it like a diamond. There we go. Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit more here. Okay. Furthermore, if I want to find the middle this way, I just put my pencil right on the middle. I'm going to make sure my ruler appears to be parallel to the side of the paper, and I can make a gentle guideline that way. And I can do the same thing horizontally off of that middle. Just make sure that my ruler is parallel to that, and then I can commit to that. Whoops, I can put some weight on the ruler. I can commit to that guideline. Now these lines are not part of my design, but they're going to be very helpful for me to make a perfect final draft. Alright, so if I want to make a bubbly H that's centered, I'm going to use this line as a guideline, and I can start with the middle of the H and start to draw it out. And I'm looking to make sure things are equally spaced apart. I'm only human here, doing my best. Now, look how far this is from there. Maybe I want to match that distance, so maybe I need to go a little further out. There we go. Then I'll come down here, get a curve, come down here, and I'm going to just try to mirror it. I know I want to come up to about right here, so I'll draw that, and then I'll just connect those. So if I like that H, I can roll on. If I want to make adjustments, I can make adjustments. And now I will try to make my M's here. Like that. And then I can go from there. Let's say I want to put some framing elements. Can make some curves here, and I'm going to go off of this line. And this is something you could use a ruler for if you want to, if it helps you out a lot, especially if you're doing these straight lines. So boys and girls, this is what I refer to as a 3 by 3 inch final draft. And later on, we'll use this to draw the absolute 6 by 6 inch final draft that will be used to create our clay tiles in another class period. The next day I see you, I will explain how we transition this to the final 6 by 6 inch square piece of paper that we'll use for the project. If you get stuck, I'm also happy to help you the next time I see you in class.